Okay, let's go. We have an unboxing for a collaboration set. This is a collaboration between Zeos and a company called Juzear. And the name is pretty cool. It's called the Defiant. I checked online about a week ago, and almost all of the takes and the videos were by people that are friends with this company in Hi-Fi Go. So I figured I'd put my hat in the ring. Something's moving around. Box is nice. Can't see anything that is comparable. It's a decent sized box. Take a look at the back. It's got a graph on the back. I believe I've actually seen this. It is a single dynamic 3 balanced armature driver. Not seeing anything about what kind of drivers are inside here. I actually will get into that, much to the chagrin of some people. But this is a $100 set, and this is kind of where that belongs. Let's go ahead and take this off without completely destroying it. Okay, there we go. So there's the box. No branding on the top. This is a $100 set, so I think they probably saved money where they could. The whole theory of collabs is kind of twofold. One is for assistance in tuning or to expose a company to a larger market. And the second is the structure of the profiting. And instead of getting more per unit like a seller or manufacturer typically would, they're going to lower the price and they're going to bet on a higher volume of sales. And the analogy that I can use is instead of having a couple big pieces of a couple pies, you have a substantially smaller piece of much more pies, which means that you're going to essentially have more pie. Cake would be a better analogy, actually, since we're talking about money. But it's the calculation that is involved with collaborations, and it tends to work. Open it up, and we have this is something I pay attention to now. This paper right here. Remember the Volume S by Soft Ears unboxed, I believe, right out of plastic on this channel. You can go check it out. When I opened it up, it was backwards. I think maybe backwards and upside down. And I thought, oh, that's not good. That set turned out to have a borked sheath on the termination, you know, where you plug it into your source or wherever. That actually kind of just pulled off because I was trying to see if it was a switchable termination, and in that process I yanked it off and kind of just moved along at that time. And then later the cap popped off, and I want to update this because it is the 14th of May 2025, and that company's never reached out, even in like they doubt and say, can you explain, can you take a picture? I already showed pictures. Explain how that took place, which is kind of quality control. I don't care if they like me or not. If somebody has an item and it failed, ask why. Ask for more details. This is kind of reminds me of Dunu a long time ago. They kind of did something like that, just completely ignored it. This is my brain. Okay, this is interesting. This one is going outside and here, and then this one is going inside. So that's an interesting one. It is, the cable looks dope. Let me figure this out for a second. You never ever pull by that right there. Here we go. There we go with one of them. Let's just pop that out, not put any pressure on the 2-pin. I believe this is a 2-pin. Okay, so this one goes under. Sorry. I'm a little confused here. Okay, there we go. Take out that foam, and we have a 3.5. It looks like it's switchable. I really like the color of this cable. This reminds me kind of old Rosencrantz cable. Stupidly expensive, but absolutely backseat freestyle is playing right now. Love this. So I can fuck the world for 72 hours. God damn. Damn, I'm in the mix. These actually look stunning. This is Zeos's logo. It's much smaller. He did a collab once. I think it was the Canera, and it had like a fabric sticker on it. And I thought that was one of the most ghetto things I've ever seen of any earphone ever. This is much nicer and done very smart. And these caps really go with this cable. So this looks nice. And I believe that this looks like... Yep, this comes off. There we go. So you got that very beautiful cable. You've got I think like a warranty card literally says it. You've got a Z. I think he had one with like a waifu in it. So this is better than that. It's got a quality control card and stuff. This is obviously going for his core audience. And there we go, good. So there's a 4.4. We also have a set of foam tips and like 3, 4, 5 pairs of silicone. That does look like a wide bore, and that does look narrower, so these are clear to distinguish. It looks that way anyway. So I'm going to go with a 4.4 when I do listening with this. This is a set that is using clone drivers, and by clone I mean that there's not a website online where you can just go and search their library, find the driver, read the description of like where it was intended. It's a full range, it's low, mid, or whatever it is, and then their own measurements. Just because you buy a phone, you buy a graphics card, you buy stuff, you compare them to other things. The clone drivers don't allow you to do that because you don't even really know what they are. And I believe this is probably using clone drivers. The good part about that, there's really not a lot of good parts about that, is this is the price range where that belongs, and it's where it always kind of was. The warpath that I've been on is that they're starting to put this stuff in more expensive sets without talking about it. Because if you get a customized Sony or a customized Knowles, there's two things that are indicative of what that means, or two things that you can extrapolate from that. One is that the company went to the extra effort to say that we're trying to do this and sculpt this like this. Somebody named VB that has a, I can't remember the name of his company. I apologize if he by any chance ever sees this video. God, what's the name of the company? Damn it. Anyway, he's got a company, and he had a really good analogy, and he was talking about, you got to think about transducers like a block of marble. You can cut away from them and shape them into what you want, but you can't add to it. The chunk of marble, you're not going to put anything on it. You're carving from that. That's a very good analogy of how transducers are best applied and how they're actually intended to be applied. You can get them as they come and then try to lower the contours of the tuning, but making them louder is not really something that you can easily do. And with filters, you definitely can't do that, because you're filtering, you're going to always take away, cut down on some of the energy, the harmonics that might be fatiguing, particularly for drivers that are in the upper mids or in the treble. But you're not really adding something. That's more of a DSP type of thing where you're putting more onto something that comes out. So that marble block analogy by VB was an all-time classic. Very good way to describe it to people that don't really know what's going on. But getting back to the non-specific drivers, you really don't have any idea what they were intending for any particular driver, because you really don't know what the driver is. And in a world where everything from cell phones to DAC amps, the chips that they're using, it doesn't really make any sense or match. This is a performance hobby. Some things are expensive and they're said to be high fidelity, high performing. So this is a performance based Like on that DAC amp, you could measure lots of stuff and compare it to others. And can you pick that stuff up? Not. It's the same as graphics cards. When you get to certain levels, if you're full throttle, top settings, and overclocking, you might start to see rips and tears and all kinds of stuff when you're gaming. But for the average consumer, you're not really going to be able to tell the difference between an upper tier and their flagship set unless you're really going for it. With these IEMs, there's really probably no chance that you're going to get the ability to discern the difference. So can you pick up the sets of drivers that are in here versus a Knowles and Sonian? That's really not the point, and it never has been the point. It's about disclosure. It's about companies going through the extra effort of saying, okay, these are our rivals, Sonian and Knowles, the example, and they do it like this, and we want to be an alternative to them, so we've got to set up our website, and we've got to put a name on this, and we've got to have a series number for the low-end drivers, and the other drivers, and the full-range drivers, and put up the data sheet so that people can see that, and then you're another option. And then the community will decide whether or not you're out of pocket, like your stuff doesn't sound as good, or that's likely not going to happen because they're, again, clones. They're essentially the same thing. The only difference is that's notable, and this isn't, I'm talking about this with Z set because this is an example where this belongs. This is a beautiful looking, with a switchable termination, $100 set, and probably sounds good, and I think a lot of people like it, but you don't know what's in it, but that's okay. When you start to get to $3,000, $5,000, $6,000, $1,000, then it starts to become, okay, hold on a second. If you do a Knowles and Sonian customization, with that comes the ability and the rights to say that you had it done, which means that you spent more money than just buying Knowles and Sonian off the shelf because you had an intention to carve out a certain particular tuning, your dream, and you executed it, and you invested in that execution because you bought those, and that cost more money. I spoke to a company that I'm buying a set from recently, and I'm going to name them, Seventh Acoustic. It's the Astria, I believe is the name. Asteria, excuse me. And that is an absolutely stunning looking set. And they're using branded drivers, and I didn't bring up anything about my Warpath, but I said, I'm really interested. I'm going to buy a set. I'm glad you're using branded drivers. And they said, oh, the alternative would be just a headache with RMA, which means that per 100 units that you get, the amount that you have to throw away because it's not matching what you want and what the other ones you're unboxing and keeping are. The amount that you throw away for the other options besides Knowles and Sonian is significantly higher. So when you see Knowles and Sonian mentioned, and then you see custom drivers, you got to consider the motive is for what. If they're not saying clearly we did this intentionally because of the tuning, and we're using these kind of drivers, then this isn't really for you, your benefit. This is for the company's benefit. I think that's everybody can understand that. But then it comes down to you're paying a lot of money and you're getting less info than you would get for this because this doesn't say, and it just says the drivers. If that $100, fine. You get up to $1,000, even $500. That's a company that's increasing its margins per set, just right in front of you, without any explanation of why. I can check a graphics card and understand why they're charging more because the components within it, or an amp DAC, or really a refrigerator, all that stuff. I can calculate and estimate that the reason that I'm paying more for that is because they're offering me better, according to the industry, internal components. The internal components of an earphone are the transducers, the thing that takes the signal, turns it into sound and into your ear. Being a mystery box is absolutely ridiculous. This set at $100 this is where this belongs. If I review a KZ set that's $50, $60, $80, $100, they got their own series of stuff, but I'm not going to evaluate it in the same way as I would a $500 set. So that was kind of a long ramble, but I think I'll just leave it up. So this is a $100 set. It's from Zeos. The matching of the caps and the cable looks absolutely gorgeous. It's very smart put together. It doesn't have a fabric logo stuck to the top, which is really low effort. That they did this very well. And it's also switchable termination, which is something I wish a couple companies that I review regularly would offer around this or a little bit more price range, which again, switchable terminations. But then again, this is a calculation of more units moved, so they can invest a little bit more with the switchable terminations than others, because they're getting on the back of an influencer that has a large audience, and then via that large audience, if a portion of it purchases his collab as a show of interest or support, the company will lose the margin per, but they'll get it back in all overall volume, which will be more than they would have if they hadn't done the collaboration. So in the end, they turned out making more money, so they can invest and do some stuff that maybe $100 set might not otherwise do. And this was like 15 minutes. Fuck it, we go. Stunning looking set, really good choice of cable, and the rice paper was placed correctly. So that's the Defiant, and if I don't do a review video for it, I will still give it to somebody that's a subscriber to both of my channels, and then just come down to this comment section. And if you're waiting, sorry for the delay for sending. Everybody that's been commenting and getting stuff over the past year and a half or longer has all gotten their stuff, and all price ranges over $1,000 for zero, and I send shipping. There are sometimes lags because of personal schedule, so the people that are waiting, you're all secured. I confirmed who all of you are if I've contacted you and sent your final address to this mail, so you're going to get your stuff. Thank you for your patience, I appreciate it. Very long unboxing. I'm actually not sorry, and I'm out.